podcast. That's right, T-Roll is back in the house, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to review some Star Wars stuff with some good friends of mine. First of all, we have Justin Sandoval, a.k.a. Sandy. And we also have Anthony Amato, who we like to call Shamato. Boys, did you miss me?
I mean...
Were you?
Speak honestly.
Where?
Did you miss me?
No, not at all.
You didn't miss me at all?
Just a little bit.
We missed having your house to record it.
Where'd you do your house?
Yeah, we did my house.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a great point. I'll raise a glass to that one, for sure.
Oh man, yeah, it is good to be back. Ironically, I will literally be gone next week as well. Wah, wah, wah.
I'm sure you're not too
worried
about that.
Your boy's gonna be in London, dude. Just let the people know.
Let the people know.
We're going to London. Gonna go see a concert there, pretty small concert, Taylor Swift concert. So,
Yeah.
pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
No, I am very excited.
Your wife
about it.
is, for sure.
No, I'm excited about it too, man. And it won't be small; it'll be quite large. But yeah, anyways,
What stadium are you gonna go to?
we are going to the famous Wembley Stadium in
Oh.
London. Isn't that awesome?
Jeez, man.
That's pretty awesome.
That's
Just to
actually
go with
really cool.
Wembley by itself is cool.
Yeah, exactly. So just know when I'm not here, ladies and gentlemen, next week, don't take it personally. I'm literally going to be in London at Wembley Stadium seeing the artists of our generation.
That's true.
Pretty cool. So now that we just got a bunch of new Swifties on board and we just said goodbye to all of our other fans over the years, let's get into the Acolyte, bro.
Yeah, Star Wars, man.
The Acolyte.
That's right.
Did they trademark the? I don't know.
We'll find out.
I definitely thought it was just called Acolyte. Not gonna lie, until I listened to y'all's review.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't realize. I mean, I watched the first 2 episodes, and then I listened to y'all's podcast last week, and I was like, oh, it's actually called The Acolyte. So,
It is. Yeah. It is.
anyways, yeah. Thanks for everyone tuning in. We want to ask you guys to please subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen, to follow us on social media at Royal Geek Pod, and to share this podcast with your friends, family, anybody you know who might like Star Wars or Marvel or DC or
Geek
random
stuff,
geek stuff, random brackets where we discuss our favorite fast food, all sorts of things. Share this frickin' podcast with your friends. Help your boys out, all right? Help your boys out. Yeah, we're talking about the Acolyte, okay?
We are.
Last week, there's the first 2 episodes. This week, we're talking about episode 3. So, you guys just want to jump in?
Well, yeah. First, you weren't here last week, so I would love to hear your opinion
yeah.
on episodes 1 and 2.
All right, so here we go. Here's what's great about my opinion
Yeah.
or my viewing experience. I'm a firm believer that when you have low expectations on something, it really helps you out.
That how you live your life.
Yeah.
So honestly, I've been hearing all the chatter about how this show is just hot garbage.
Okay.
May have even heard those exact words from someone on this podcast. I don't know. But there's been a lot of chatter about how this show has just not lived up to the mark. And or lived up to the hype, excuse me. And I think that actually helped me. Because I went into episodes 1 and 2 with such incredibly low expectations that when I finished episode 2, I was like, it's not terrible.
Yeah.
That was literally what I said to myself. Like, it's not the worst thing I've seen. Maybe it's the worst Star Wars show.
Yeah.
But that's because they've been knocking them out of the park.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say my synopsis of episodes 1 and 2, which I think it is good to share because episode 3 is so different. It's literally a flashback episode.
The entire episode.
Yeah, so it's a clear distinction. So I guess I'll get in a couple things here. Here's what I like about episodes 1 and 2, okay? What I'm very intrigued by is all of the mystery in this show.
Okay, yes.
I think I don't want to say the whole plot is good yet because I don't really know that far, but I would say that the mystery honestly, for the first I think you guys said it on y'all that review last week. For the first little while, I was like, oh my gosh, did what's Osha? Did Osha actually? Did she got split personality?
Yeah.
I literally. It wasn't until Justin's boy Yard. What's his name?
Yord.
Yeah, it wasn't until Yord put her in the clear when he followed her, so he was able to confirm that it wasn't her.
Yeah.
Literally until that moment, I was like, oh, maybe she is just tripping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, that for me, that was probably the most exciting.
A little more compelling, right?
I think a little bit, yeah. And she's literally insane and can't literally like a Moon Knight to some extent, different personalities.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. It'd be an interesting idea for like the Star Wars universe for literally someone to be split entirely between the light and the dark side depending on their personality.
So cool, yeah. So for a little bit there, I was like, oh snap! I was actually intrigued by that. Yord had to ruin it. Way to go, Yord. I got some thoughts on Yord too. We'll get to that.
Please.
But I would say all of the mystery elements of this, I have actually been pretty compelled by, and what I would say was I was surprisingly satisfied with like as I was asking myself, what's happening here?
Yeah.
Now let me tell you what's bad about this show. Okay.
Do we have time or
how long have we been going here? Am I taking the whole podcast?
Yeah, no, you're good.
What I didn't like about episodes 1 and 2, and maybe episode 3 helped this in some regard, but the first 2 episodes, what makes good shows is good characters.
Yes, I agree.
Episodes 1 and 2, I was like, there is hardly a single person anywhere that is compelling enough for me to care about anything.
That you're rooting for or that you're rooting against.
Absolutely. Our boy Soul is carrying this thing on his freaking back.
Yes, he is.
Like Michael Jordan, LeBron James in the playoffs. Okay, like Kobe in the finals. Okay, carrying it on his back in episodes 1 and 2. And then what you guys, the breakdown you guys talked about it, I would say that was a good. Maybe his language barrier actually helps him as like a Jedi Master.
Honestly, it really does.
It does. It's cool. So, yeah, hate to say it, OSHA. May is more compelling to me than OSHA through episodes 1 and 2. Yeah, I mean maybe my favorite person is the dude who makes the poison.
What Kamir?
Kamir, yeah.
Yeah, by Manny Jacinto.
Yeah. So yeah, I think because my expectations were so low, I came out of the second episode like, okay, not as bad as I thought, but that does not mean I think it's a good show. But I give some sentiment to what you guys said last week. There's like a path you could see it could get better. I could see it getting better. I'm excited to see what you guys thought of episode 3.
Yeah.
So is it only a 6-episode series, by the way?
No, it's 8.
It's 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do think it's interesting that you bring up like the mystery of it. It's something that we don't see a whole lot in Star Wars, because most of it's so tied in with the Skywalker saga that you kind of know where everything's going,
right,
or know where everything's been. So that even though really really good content, sometimes it's you're like, okay, I kind of know where this is going. Even though Andor was amazing, like,
right,
like there's only so far he can go. There's only so much danger he can be in. Before
he reaches his conclusion.
Yeah, like you just know what's going to happen. So I do think that was an interesting idea to bring up the mystery, because with it being said 100 years before Phantom Menace, you're kind of like, where like it's essentially anything can happen.
Yeah. And it's a funny thing, like T-Roll brought up mystery, you're talking about mystery, like I just noticed during episode 3 that the genre on Disney Plus, it says mystery/action adventure is what it says.
Go.
So
that's cool.
The rest of the series, I mean, I feel like it's gonna deal with this mystery of like what happened on the planet that's fully based on episode 3.
Yeah.
Like, because I got some theories that we're seeing something and it's not actually what it is. I think it's completely smoke and mirrors, I should say. So yeah, we can dive into that once we get the plot. But
sure.
But yeah, so the mystery, it's doing that. It's doing that pretty good. I can get on board with that, like, because I'm not really sure what's going on right now, and I want to know more. And I don't want this to be like, this is the series from here on out. It's a bunch of crazy witches and all this other stuff. Like, I want some more substance to this, and so hopefully this flashback will, kind of propel us into what the story's going to be. I don't know. We'll see. Well, we can just dive into episode 3 if you want.
Well, no. One more comment on episodes 2, and you guys talked about it. But what's the girl, the green lady who no one likes? The Finestra. Yeah. When she is like, no, get back here. We have to strategize. All I could think in my head was, this makes sense because in Phantom Menace, all they wanted to do was sit in circles and talk about
Jedi
things.
Council, man. Jeez.
Yeah.
And it very much felt like, okay, as much as I hate it, and it's so stupid, to me it actually checked out. It's like, that would make sense in this timeline, in my mind, where they would have people like her who were like, no, we have to talk about it.
Yeah. It actually kind of reminds me of, like, in the Harry Potter series, when the Ministry is unwilling to admit that Voldemort has come back. Like that time period where it's like, he's back, but they don't want to admit it because they're afraid of what it might mean for their PR essentially. And I feel like that's kind of what the Jedi Council is in the Jedi Order is kind of dealing with right now, is like this idea of them being completely like unwilling to show any warts.
Right, yeah.
Totally.
No, I get that. Jeez, man.
And I like your theory of, I think you said a motto, where it's like, what if at the end of this episode, like, there is, like, a Sith is revealed, and it's a lady like Sinestra? Venestra, who, like, chooses to bury that truth just to keep face.
Yeah.
That would actually be like, I hope something like that happens. That would be cool.
I mean, it would be one of the best ways for it to make sense from Phantom Menace, where because
Totally.
I don't remember which Jedi says it, but the Jedi they state that Sith have been gone for like a millennia, essentially at that point.
It's the dude with the long white beard and the hair on
Mundi?
Yeah, I think Mundi.
Is it Mundi?
Yeah.
Okay. I just couldn't remember who it is. But yeah, so that would make it all make sense if she's essentially the gatekeeper to this knowledge, and she just chooses to die.
Yeah. Which therefore setting them back. Like,
Yes. Yeah. Essentially saving them for the short run, but being very short-sighted about
Correct.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a lot of lead in. It's pretty late for a spoiler warning, but we haven't really talked spoilers yet of episode 3. So here's your spoiler warning for episode 3. It is a complete flashback episode, not just a memory, not a scene. It almost feels like when they shot this series, you could have literally watched this episode first.
It's true.
You really could have. And maybe they were like, hey, maybe it'd be better if we put it later. You know? I could see them have made that decision.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's literally like, it's funny because I was like, okay, what happened in this fire?
Yeah.
And then we get that. Now, I've got some thoughts on that fire. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if this is what you were getting at.
I got some thoughts.
Okay, you want to go? Should we just jump there, or how do you guys want to do this? You want to dance around a little bit? Talk about them as kids.
I would say we go a little more chronological and kind of lead up to the fire.
All right, so it starts out where like they're like in the woods.
Yeah.
Turns out they're getting spied on by the Jedi.
Yes.
We literally see Saul in the woods. It's 16 years prior to the events we saw in episode 2.
Yeah. Yep.
Which I feel like they've been doing some really weird titling things when they show things on screen. Like, for example, in one of the first episodes, they say one of the planets after literally they say she's on this planet, and then they say they name the planet on screen, and I'm like, you didn't need to do that.
Yeah, because you just told us the planet name.
You literally just said that, and I feel like the 16 years earlier being like the first scene seems out of place in my mind. It's because it's not giving you any context. It's not pulling back to anything.
Yeah.
Like because this is the very beginning of the episode. Like they had started at present time, even for just a moment, and then been like, even if it was just like you see Osha's face and you just see her like thinking off into space, and then it's like, 16 years earlier.
Yeah.
That would make sense, but I just feel like there was some weird like I don't 100% get the way they're doing titling on screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I want to go. I mean, we're going chronological here. So you instantly get the two sisters, young. They're in the field being spied on by the Jedi.
Yeah.
They are obviously like butting heads a little bit. Like clearly, Osha is in her own little world, and May is all about like.
It's funny. May's the rule follower.
Yeah, correct. May is a rule follower, which is very interesting.
Didn't expect that.
Yeah,
but it makes sense.
It kind of makes sense because I don't know.
It depends. What's your rules? What are the rules?
Right.
That's where it comes.
Yeah.
You know.
But here's my first critique. All right.
Ooh, here we go.
We already get from episodes 1 and 2 that Osha and May bump heads, right? We already get that. They're sisters that don't see eye to eye anymore, right?
Yeah.
Even though she thought one was dead, you can tell that they are against each other, right? So then we get thrown into when they're kids, they're against each other, but why? Like, it's never explained why the two sisters, like, you go into the scenes and they're automatically bickering. Like, why is one way and the other way? Like, did something happen? Now do we need another flashback to figure out why they are so, like, against each other?
I thought that was really obvious.
No, because
Osha
Osha doesn't want to be there, and she's all rule follower. Yeah, but but I feel like the dynamic that they have is something that happened much long ago. Yeah, cool, I get it. She wants to be a Jedi, and she wants to be a witch or whatever the heck it is, right? But what? Why? Like, why do you have to have animosity to your sister because she has a different thought process? I don't know.
Because she's a kid, I guess. I don't know. What do you think, Shimada?
I mean, okay, so I felt like it was a little heavy-handed with what they were doing with, like, the division between the two of them. But I understand, like, they're literally supposed to be like they're creating this vision of twins being literally yin and yang.
Yeah.
Like, literally just polar opposites. It's this idea of, it's almost like the movie Twins, where, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger is, the embodiment of perfection, and Danny DeVito is the complete opposite.
But my question, we got that already. We already have that idea for episodes 1 and 2. We didn't need the flashback to tell us that, right?
Yeah.
We already get that they are yin and yang. They are complete opposites. So why do we need a flashback to tell us that? And then, like, what is the fuel to that in the first place?
I do think it would have been extremely more interesting.
I feel like they're, like, double telling us.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it would have been more interesting if they had been significantly closer, and then when
thank you. Yes.
If the idea...
Well, they did the whole ring around the rosy handcuffing thing in the woods. They were singing that song. They were trying to show that they're still close.
Well, they were singing that song, but May had to force her to sing that song.
Yeah.
But, like, I think Amato's right. He's onto something, the writer in the room. We needed scenes or multiple scenes of them, like, truly being bonded, and as, like, them doing their little chant together because they want to, them playing together, them doing something together, and then
the inciting incident either being them basically, when they find out that the Jedi exist around them, that's when Osha starts splitting her opinion, and then the downfall for the relationship crumble from there, and then the fire just splits it more. So it makes this tragic, like, idea that this moment split them, and that's why they're split instead of... It's almost like... It's like, essentially, you don't feel any of their sibling... anything. They could have just been two random people.
Correct.
Well, two random children that were on that planet, essentially. When they were... I mean, other than that, they look alike. There isn't they don't feel like they're family. Yeah,
they didn't have that moment to show us why we should care.
Yeah, maybe they didn't, but I feel like the family bonds were really strong through the whole coven. I mean, I don't know. I can't believe I'm defending the show right now, but I don't think it's
good. We need this.
I just didn't. Yeah. I can't believe this is the critique we're starting on. I didn't think it was that. I mean, I didn't have a problem with kind of how the way they portrayed them as.
Well, I think my problem with them throughout the entire episodes, it carries the whole episode. Like, why force the opposite opinions on us when we already have that established in episodes 1 and 2? Like, it's already established.
Yeah.
You don't need to, like, throw it at us and throw it in our face. Like, we can assume that as the audience.
Yeah,
like, I think we're smart enough to assume that.
Okay, here's my thing. The end of episode 2 literally ends. First of all, Osha hasn't seen May. She had that little weird vision on that ice planet.
Yeah.
But outside of that, hasn't seen May. When she sees her and she hops on that, like, cruiser, she hesitates for a moment. But ultimately what she does is she freaking attacks her.
She does shoot her, that's right.
This, like, supposedly good character.
Yeah, but that was also it was a stun that she was shooting at her. That was not gonna kill her. That was not gonna...
Yeah, but my point is there's some real animosity here. Like, significant animosity.
Yeah, she thinks she tried to burn her down. That's
I know, but what I'm trying to say is, like, you would think, like, the twin that's on the dark side would be the one that's more aggressive.
Right.
And the twin that's on the good side would be the one that's more, oh my God, I can't believe you're alive. But instead, May was like, oh my God, she's alive. She couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And Osha was like, that's some, like she just shot at her.
Yeah.
So I felt like I wanted to know, I'm going in episode 3, if they're going to give us a whole background. It's like, my thought was like, did May actually start this fire? Because then there's like, that's why Osha's actually mad at her.
Yeah.
And like, I still got some theories on the fire, but clearly May does start the fire.
Yeah.
Now, if something else happened to make the fire turn into an atomic bomb, maybe. I don't understand that, but...
Yeah. I just like, okay, so from a writing point of view, like the basis of like any storyline is change. Because essentially you start at like a 0 point and then something changes that causes the movement. And I feel like they lost that edge of that their relationship should have been that change, and instead it was just the base.
Because they never had a moment where they showed their love for each other as sisters.
Yes.
That's the main thing I was getting at.
Yeah, like that they should have been close and then split.
Yes.
But all we got was split. We never got
Yes.
close. Okay, I see what you're saying. I don't think that's... I mean...
It's not... I mean, it's...
Okay, here's why it's a big deal. If this was just a flashback, you wouldn't mind, but since it's a whole episode...
Right.
Is that kind of what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. We didn't need the whole episode to tell us this.
You
when we already
done,
have it established in episodes 1 and 2.
You could have done the first 5 minutes of them being loving siblings who may have had slightly differing, like, ideals.
Yeah.
But they weren't really, like, loving... in their actions toward each other.
I feel like we're saying the same things different ways. Like, I think because episode 3 was the whole thing was a flashback.
Yeah.
I think that's where I'll give you some credit to your critique, where it's like, if you're going to spend a whole episode, why not give us a little more of like the good times at the beginning?
Correct.
Yes.
If it was just a 5-minute flashback,
make us care about the characters.
Right. If it was just a 5-minute flashback,
Yeah.
I'd give them a pass on not giving us that because it's just a quick flashback.
Right. Correct.
But
make us care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's
Well,
talk
I guess I just can't count on caring about this show. That's why I'm
there. You go.
low expectations. But
Well, what'll help with that is the coven. Let's talk about this coven.
okay, so the coven, the Ascension.
Yes.
Took me a while to understand that they were witches.
Yes.
But then I was like, oh yeah, them some witches. Using the Force pretty powerfully.
Very powerfully.
They seem to have a very high regard for the Force. They even talked about how not to weaponize it.
And
They're very critical of Jedi.
They refer to it as the thread, right? Is that what
The thread,
The
yeah.
thread, right? Yeah.
She even said, her mom even said, like it's called a Force, I think, but whatever. What y'all think of the Coven, man?
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, the Ascension scene's towards the end of the episode, but like that's just a very odd scene. I don't know if you want to talk about that now or you want to keep talking about beforehand.
Is there anything? How about this? Is there anything you liked about the Coven or anyone in the Coven?
Not at all. Not a single thing about the Coven.
You didn't like the mom? There's 2 moms. You didn't like like the main mom?
The main mom I liked more.
Yes,
her name?
I agree.
The one with horns.
Anisha?
Was
Yeah, the horn lady
essentially
was
insufferable.
Oh, so
Like,
so
that
bad.
was terrible. Yeah.
So bad.
I felt like one of the biggest critiques of this episode I will say I have is just about everyone seemed like they had very wooden performances.
Yeah.
I don't feel like they felt.
Yeah.
I didn't get much feeling, and when there was some feeling, especially with the kids, I felt like they did not get the best performances out of these child actors.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I felt. I felt like there was a lot of over the top.
Child actors usually suck
Yes.
anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I will agree. It is hard to find good children actors.
Yeah.
But if you knew you were going to have an entire episode like this, this wasn't a single scene,
Yeah.
But so like you have to get these are your main characters for an entire episode as their younger selves. You have to get these actors right.
Yeah. And it is Anastasia, by the way.
Anastasia.
Yeah, which I did.
Cool name.
Yeah, I did like her more. I will say that.
Yeah, by a mile.
Oh yeah.
By a mile.
I did.
Go ahead.
I did enjoy the little teaching session where she's like showing the girls
and they're fighting.
And they're fighting in the background. I was mad that May and Osha were bickering in the background because I was kind of into what she was teaching.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of expanding the universe a little bit. It was explaining more about how the Force could be used in like different ways, which I mean, I see a lot of the people in the Star Wars community, they're hating on like the Coven as a whole. However, like we've experienced witches before, like the Night Sisters, right? We've seen them.
Yeah, Night Sisters for sure.
Yeah, and so like I'm all about expanding the universe because we've essentially seen Star Wars in a vacuum, the Skywalker vacuum, right? Essentially.
Yeah, it's a big galaxy. It's a big.
It's
universe.
a huge galaxy, so of course there's going to be witches. There's going to be there's the Night Sisters. There's going to be somebody else. There's going to be some sort of worshiping of the Force, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of similar to religion, quote unquote, today in today's society. Like people believe in a upper deity, right?
Yeah.
But it's all coming from
But
different
how is it
angles and views,
manifested?
right? Exactly.
You
So
know, how is that brought
it only
out?
makes sense logically that Star Wars universe would have something similar to that. So I'm not hating on that. I'm not. I'm more actually appreciative that we're getting a whole other perspective of the Force.
And I think although it didn't play the greatest on it, I think it does open up for this. I think this entire series opens up a pathway to, like you were saying, we've lived in this almost bubble of the Skywalker saga. And this is kind of tilting the point of view a little bit. Because it's not, especially with this specific episode, and you're seeing the way they see the Force and the way specifically they see the Jedi. Because we have not seen a whole lot of the way the rest of the world, the rest of the galaxy sees the Jedi, except for people who see the Jedi positively. But from what we you have to think, okay, so what are the Jedi? Are essentially a police force, and
this episode kind of really laid out.
Yeah, and then there has to be people who are have different views, and it seems like you think about the Jedi and what they are supposed to be doing. They're essentially trying to keep the Force in order.
Yeah,
and by trying to corral it, you are by essentially definition, you are trimming some stuff. It's similar to the way you see in the MCU now with the TVA. Like, the Jedi are essentially the TVA of the Force, in the sense that they are trying to keep
Force pure, right?
Yes, this pureness of the Force, that they are, things that reach outside of the mainstream, the main line that they want, they're going to discourage or destroy. Okay. And I think in this, they've kind of shown that. They even allude to the fact that, it may have very well been the Jedi who are the reason why they're in hiding.
Yeah.
And why they are not able to practice whatever they're doing out in public.
Or to train young children.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
So that was the big premise of the Jedi showing up.
Which is the most hypocritical statement in the entire show.
What do you mean?
Literally, they say we don't take children. That's literally all the Jedi do. Whether you think it's right or wrong, or where they have, do they have the right to do something, or is it the right thing to do?
Yeah,
that's what the Jedi do. Soul literally says, "They came to me when I was 4 years old."
Yeah. But they give the children the choice, right?
I mean, do you want to give a 4-year-old
do you really,
choice?
Do you really want to give
That's a good question. I mean, in today's world, I guess you can.
And essentially, they're bypassing the parents' ability to protect their children. So when you come to get the child, you're not really giving the parents the option. It's
here's what I'm saying though. I don't understand how that works in this universe. Yeah. So what they don't explain to me clearly. Okay, so the witches apparently know they're not allowed to be training children. Correct. Because when they talk about training children, they just lie about it.
Yeah. They just say there aren't children.
They went so far to lie about them existing.
Yeah.
But why is that? That almost feels like that is a. My assumption is that in universe at this time there is almost like a, I don't want to even say an agreement, but like the witches have been told like, sorry, you can't do this anymore.
I think it has something to do with how the Jedi view the Force. Like, I feel like the witches, very powerful. It's things they're teaching, right?
Yeah.
Whereas the Jedi, I think it's more of baby steps. I think, when she asked if she was going to get a lightsaber, that kind of thing, right? He's like, in time, or Torben said that.
Yes, Torben does say that.
So, like, I think
after much training.
Yes, after much training. So I feel like Jedi teach, like, they teach you the tools to be able to wield the Force, rather than the coven of witches. They're like, it's power, it's raw power. Like, that's like, so maybe it has something to do with how they shape.
Yeah, I think it's almost like essentially the Jedi see the Force as something that is almost like a color by numbers.
Yeah,
they will tell you what you can color in, whereas I think anything outside of that, and there's so much more to art than color by numbers, of course. And I feel like they see anything that is not this very direct path as being chaotic and being leading to the potential of the dark side, leading to the potential of something that they don't want to be a part of.
Yeah, and so like the Jedi are there scoping out the coven, right? And the whole main thing is like they're scouting for children because apparently they got wind of children being on there, right?
Yeah.
Now, Shamato, I'm going to you with this one. The way that the children are conceived is brought up, right? I carried them for whatever.
The horn lady.
The horn lady. I carried them, and then Anastasia, right?
Yes.
Anastasia.
She says. But I created them.
Yes. Correct.
And this was all after, because the Jedi said, "Where's their father?" Horn lady says they don't have a father.
Correct.
Yes.
And some of that Jedi's faces was like, huh?
Yeah.
Which was funny.
Yes. So, Shamato, what is your take on that as far as and the legacy that we know of Star Wars today?
So I kind of see it as she obviously created them somehow by manipulating the Force, using magic.
Dark magic, probably.
Something like that, essentially.
Dark magic.
Almost essentially like what Scarlet Witch does when creating her children.
Freaky.
So I think sort of along the lines of that, in the sense that they are unnatural. Maybe, I think there is a possibility, maybe this coven is exclusively female. And
it is,
that the idea, so the reason why they're not allowed to have children is because of the unnatural nature of how you would have to create children in that circumstance. So them having children and training children would be considered to be, unnatural, and whereas that may be why the Jedi are so against the possibility of there being children there.
I'm seeing a lot of the argument of that the way that the girls are created takes away from the specialness that is Anakin. Have you heard this, or do you have any idea? Like, because Anakin was a fatherless, created by the Force, right?
Yeah.
And then he's the chosen one, right? Well, 100 years prior, there were twins that are created similar. Like, I'm just wondering, Shamato, like how you see that as far as that plays.
That is an interesting idea. Especially when you think about the idea that they are literally the balance of the Force. Because one's light, one's dark.
Right.
So, I mean, I think there is the possibility that I understand what you're getting at with that, and that what Anakin was, and he was essentially immaculately conceived.
Correct.
But I see. Okay, so but. My counter to that would be, although he was essentially immaculately conceived, I would not say they were immaculately conceived.
Okay, good. All right, so I think we're on the same page here.
They used an outside force
yes.
to create this life. Yeah. It's not the same thing.
The mom, like the one who gave birth.
Yeah.
She even said something along the lines of, if the Jedi find out how they were created.
Yes.
Like, she wasn't threatening what's her name?
Anastasia.
Yeah. Anastasia, but it was kind of like, they can't know that.
Yeah, it was definitely an understanding of, like, this is not something that they would think is cool.
So good. So, like, there's a lot of division in the Star Wars community about this, and it sounds like you fall on the side of, they're two completely different things.
Yeah.
Like, one was a user manipulating the Force to create a being, where the other one is just the Force creates a being, period.
Yes.
Done. Quote-unquote virgin birth thing.
Yeah.
And so they're completely different. And so that should be, like, squashed altogether.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so then the Jedi come.
Yeah, well.
During the Ascension, right?
Yeah. Yes, sorry. Yeah, they come during the Ascension. And this is like the first time that Osha even realizes that they're real, right? Because she didn't know anything about the outside world, right? That's what she kept talking about.
Yeah.
So I do think it was interesting how quickly that happens.
Yeah, because, like, she's kind of hiding there, but, like, looking.
But I guess you gotta, like, in a show, you only got so much time, so you can't linger on that. But I think they tried to convey to us, when you see how nervous she was about the Ascension the whole episode, like, she was looking for a way out anyways, even as a kid.
Well, I think what they were trying to show is that this kind of idea that once you become a Jedi, once you're like, know that you want to be a Jedi, or the idea of being a Jedi is put upon you, and that is the path that you should follow. It is a switch. Yeah. It's essentially love at first sight. Like the little, like, it is just something turns inside you, and you that path is all of a sudden lit for you.
That's right, because they're not taking kids are choosing it.
Yeah.
Love at first sight, you just said it.
It's a little manipulative, if you ask me, when Soul comes and he calls the children down, and then he hands them the lightsaber, and he's like, "Do you want one of these?" Well, you can have one for a low price of
your
coming
life
and joining us as a Jedi.
Yeah,
just your soul. That's it.
Just joining this cult.
Yeah, exactly.
Go from one cult to another.
Imagine that's like somebody coming and recruiting your children, being like, "Hey, like my son, if you tell him that he gets to have ice cream, like, he'll come with you no matter what."
That's the literal definition of the white van with having candy. That's literally all that
what he did. Yeah,
that's just a Star Wars version of that.
The candy lightsaber.
So yeah, exactly. So anyway, he says they'll have to test them, and you need to bring them. Let us test them. And so apparently in this universe,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, yes, keep going.
Apparently in this universe, it's established that
you have to let that happen.
The Jedi are out there scouting planets, apparently, because the episode prior, Soul said they were stationed. They were stationed on that planet, right?
Yeah.
So that leads me to believe that the Jedi Council has sent out all these Jedi across the universe,
so many
right?
Jedi,
to be on these planets to, I guess, scout.
Yeah, I'm essentially essentially the way I think of it is almost like college football recruiting.
I was just about to say that.
Actually, I think it's more of baseball recruiting, where you're in, like, the high school levels, like, you're really paying attention to
travel ball.
Yeah, like, you're looking at what 5 tools are you going to have that we can follow throughout their career to see if they can develop, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yes, so yeah, I mean, and clearly it's established in this universe, in this galaxy at the time, that when that happens, like,
you obey.
They didn't fight that.
Yeah,
I was shocked.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't fight that at all.
Which
I was also shocked. The dad mom, yeah.
The dad mom.
Sorry, I don't know how to say it. Like, the one who created
the horn one.
No, not the horn one. That's the mom.
Oh,
the dad mom.
See, the thing that's hard about that is, although the horned mom gave birth, I'd say she's more of the dad. Mom. I'd say she's more of the dad personality wise, though.
Yeah,
maybe in your family.
Coral,
yeah. So the other one, Anastasia, what's her name? Anastasia.
Yes.
And the way that she just let Osha do what she wanted. So first of all, shocked by that. Mm-hmm. Second of all, did you guys kind of find that as, like, I don't know, I watched that. I was like, wow, like
that she allowed it, like that she was okay with it. That
yeah,
kind of thing, right?
she's like letting her choose
supporting
her
her,
path.
honestly,
supporting her.
Yeah.
I was shocked.
Like the moment when they were like sitting there hugging each other, like this is what you want to do, like
and
you want to get tested.
It felt genuine.
It did. It felt genuine. There was tears on both ends.
Yeah.
I mean, she even told May to get out of there so they can talk together. Like, she cleared the room. A part of me was confused by that whole thing because they're all about the ascension
and the secrecy.
She literally, like, May ascended and got this mark on her head, and then like later on, she's hugging Osha about going to the Jedi, like that kind of thing, right? Like a couple minutes ago, you were kind of like pushing both of the daughters to the ascension, and now you're supporting her. It was kind of confusing.
It is odd because there is like this. I'm not sure if she was just hoping that by giving her the choice, she would choose to be a part of the coven.
Yeah,
like if it was like that, she could see her drifting towards this other force.
Yeah.
So it was almost like that idea of like, if you love something, let it go, and it'll come back to you. I think she wanted to create that. I think she was kind of taking a calculated risk. I think that's part one. Is she was taking a calculated risk, hoping that by giving her a little bit of this freedom, she would choose to come back.
Exactly.
But I think part two of that is a little bit more sinister, and that is there's this underlying idea that if you don't cooperate with the Jedi, that there is something big and bad that will come and destroy what you have.
So literally, like it was a calculated, like it was a tactical decision to let her daughter go just for survival because of the threat of the Jedi. Is that what you're saying?
I think,
in her mind,
I think if they had been like, no, you can't test our children, it would have been like, okay. They would have been like, okay. And then they would have came back with like 1,000 Jedi. And then it would have just been like...
a massacre.
Yeah, like...
Oh, that sounds like something the Empire would do, Shimado. Why would the Jedi...
Two sides of the same coin, right?
So then the test scene's interesting, I thought. May says, you better not tell the truth, right? Yeah. And then Osha goes in there, she tries to lie.
Soul picks up on it immediately.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's funny because she gets like two wrong, and she's like, "No, they're correct." And she's like, "But it's a," and she like pulls herself back.
That's not a what?
Yeah. Oh god, it was a little too obvious, a little too.
It was a little hammy,
yes,
for sure.
Yes. But regardless, I mean, Soul. There's a connection here. He's building a connection here, to which, honestly, it helps me in the series because we don't get to see Osha as the Padawan, right? We only hear that she was the Padawan, right? But then we see here...
Who knows? We might get a whole other flashback episode.
Honestly, I'm starting to think that we are going to get a lot of flashbacks.
Yeah. Well, I think we 100% have to get more of how May got to where she's at.
Yes. Yes, correct.
I don't know if we necessarily need Osha's as much, but I believe we need to see May's journey.
Yeah. So, like... They go back from being tested, and she says she's going to go be a Jedi. She's going to leave. She's packing her bag.
Yeah.
May comes in like a freaking Hell's Fury, right? And takes her notebook where, coincidentally, she was sketching the Jedi logo, right?
Yeah.
Did she know about the Jedi prior, or... Did she start sketching that after she found out about the Jedi? Or
is it just she feels it?
Feels it, yes, correct.
Yeah.
And she lights up the page with the Jedi logo on there. And then she locks her in the door. And then, T-Roll, do you want to take this from here about the fire?
Yeah, so I'd love to know everyone's thoughts on the fire.
Yeah.
How that fire literally blew up to what it was. Mm-hmm. And how the fire that started in that small place killed all the witches off.
Right. We're on the same page here, T-Roll.
Yeah.
So conspiracy theorist
without
T-Roll,
fire being there.
Anywhere. Smoke even.
Yeah.
Without seeing burn marks on the witches.
Yeah.
Without their clothes being burned.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, conspiracy theorist here.
I'm with you all the way.
My theory is when Osha tells the truth of... Which we don't see her say everything. Mm-hmm. But it's pretty clear from May... Like, it's pretty clear that Osha tells them the truth. I'm guessing the Jedi did something. Maybe not Soul. Maybe he doesn't know. Maybe he's pure and he's they're kind of creating him as if maybe he didn't know that they intervened. But the thing that sticks out to me is Torben was in 10 years of meditation, didn't talk to a soul.
Because of the events.
But was so quick to talk to May.
Yeah.
And not just talk to her.
And apologize.
And then, because of whatever happened, he killed himself.
So I think Torben, at least, maybe Indara, and maybe the Wookiee... Kilnaka. I don't know about Soul yet, but it seems like there is some sort of Jedi intervention.
Yes.
Because it doesn't make sense why all those witches are dead.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they got poisoned.
I think the Jedi slaughtered all of them, and I do think the Jedi even ignited the fire to make it bigger. To make it bigger.
Yep.
And honestly, I think it was partially one of two things. One, to see Osha's resolve on how to escape that room, to see if she's worthy of being a Jedi. That's number one. And two, just to put an end to all the witches who are practicing "quote unquote" bad force, right?
Yeah, I think that could be very well. They want to cut the. To tell you the truth, I wouldn't be surprised if Soul went rogue in that moment.
See, I'm kind of
saved Osha.
Okay.
When he saved Osha,
okay,
I'm thinking their job was to
eliminate everybody.
Yes, we're just gonna. Clean slate.
Okay.
And then that's why Soul was the only Jedi that was there when Osha is saved.
See, I'm thinking more that Soul and Kelnaka are kind of oblivious to what's going on, but in Darna and Torben, they are the ones fully responsible for the entire mess.
Yeah.
And they had some sort of other agenda. And then that's going to be the mystery that event that it takes place with the whole entire coven is the mystery that we're going to solve in this whole entire show. Because I think what we see is not the reality. I feel like all those witches got slaughtered by Jedi. Which Jedi? To be determined, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it would not surprise me if the Sith ends up being an actual Jedi that turned, that kind of thing, who's masked. They're masked for a reason.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to see the face. There's going to be some sort of turn.
Yeah.
And there's going to be somebody that we've seen already that's a Jedi that's underneath that mask. I would not be surprised if that happens. And that leads into the mystery aspect of it.
Yeah. So we're all in agreement that there's some sort of,
foul play.
Something fishy.
There's a false flag here.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is the Royal Geek Conspiracy Podcast.
Oh yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah.
It definitely has the feel of something's not quite right here.
Yes, correct.
I think there is a chance that I don't know. We saw May outside of the temple. Mm-hmm. Maybe she goes back. Maybe she sees and she kind of is like, this doesn't look like fire here or something. Maybe she sees. And she, brings it up. I think it would be really cool if at the end, maybe in the final episode or the penultimate episode, there's finally some evidence that May can show Osha that's definitively damning. Mm-hmm. That is hey, this is what they did at our temple. Yeah.
Now, by all means, that. I mean, that's basically the episode in a nutshell, right? We didn't miss anything towards the end besides Soul taking back.
Let's talk about if that's not the case, though. Real quick,
if there's not
if there's not Jedi intervention somehow, the Jedi are clean. I would chalk that up to bad writing if they chose to do that.
Yeah.
But can you see a way where that could work? I mean, because it didn't look like the fire killed.
The only thing that I can think of is that May started the fire, and in her rage, the force leaked out of her, engulfing the flames and making them crazy. She got shocked and spooked, ran away, and as she's running away, she goes full force rage mode or whatever, and sets the whole entire coven ablaze. And causing all the witches to die, and then she realizes that Osha is out. I don't know.
We have seen in Star Wars, Anakin, what happens when someone is burning.
Yeah, we've seen it. Yes, 100%.
And none of the witches look like that.
Correct. Yeah.
Another option would be whoever this rogue figure is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe they intervened.
They're the ones who did it.
Yes.
And essentially is poisoning May's mind, saying either blaming May for it so that she falls towards the dark side, or blaming the Jedi and saying the Jedi did this.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But
I can see that.
The only issue that would be like why Torben would have
correct
killed himself so easily.
Correct. It's got to be, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
You think Torben put himself in meditation to like try to like
forget it all,
repent?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
I do think
Makes
it was
sense.
that, and maybe
Regret,
he was
shame.
kind of like
waiting
for his comeuppance. You know,
comeuppance.
Like that was he was just he's here just waiting for you to take your revenge.
Yeah,
in a way.
I mean, overall, this was not a strong episode. There was a lot of inconsistencies, a lot of like why they go in that direction, that kind of thing. But I do appreciate the expansion on the universe. I will say that. I'm all for building out the Star Wars galaxy. A lot of the Star Wars fan base, I would say a majority of it, is so fixated on the Skywalker saga, and everything has to be involved with like the things that we've learned throughout this. Like, there's more. There's more to this giant galaxy. Yeah. And so, like, for Star Wars fans to be so, we know how freaking toxic they are, right? For them to be so nitpicky and not accepting of the fact that there is more than one way to use and manipulate the Force, right? Like, we have the Night Sisters. We've seen that, right? Yeah. We've seen it in Ahsoka. We've seen that in the Clone Wars, the series, right? So, like, why are there not other options out there to manipulate
if you're really getting down to the nitty-gritty of it, essentially the dark side and the light side are two different ways of manipulating the Force.
Correct, yes.
And you could, if you really want to get down to it, there's how many different ways does the light side manipulate the Force? You know, like, okay, so the Jedi mind trick and things like that. Yeah. Going over the Sith side, like, choking, Force lightning, all that kind of stuff. They're all different ways of manipulating the Force. So, I do think there is this unfortunate, like, there's this group of Star Wars fans who are like, they kind of fall into the idea of they know just enough to be dangerous. Yeah. Like, there's they know more than just the movies, but they don't know they may not have gone all the way through like the animated stuff and the stuff that is generally considered non-canon and things like that, where they're kind of in between and they're so pure and they claim to be so pure and
elitists.
Yes, elitists. And it's just rough.
Star Wars fans, without a doubt, the hardest fans in anything that I can think of, in entertainment, sports, music, the hardest fans to satisfy.
Yeah, you're not Star Wars fans.
Yeah,
we're part of that fan base.
They're worse than Cowboys fans.
Y'all are. Y'all are.
Yeah.
Doesn't affect me as much.
Yeah.
Hence why I watch the show and I'm like,
yeah.
Because I will say, what this episode also was good at is, again, the one thing that mystery. Yeah. The one thing that's keeping me here is like, I genuinely want to know what happened in that fire. Yeah. You know, I want to know what extent Soul and Kelnaka are guilty or not guilty, or even aware or not aware.
If anything, the fire and all the dead bodies fueled the mystery, right?
Yeah,
like,
correct.
It actually is something like extra. Like if it just, because it would have been very easy to just be like, it was May.
Seeing that red lightsaber at the end of episode 1.
Yeah.
Mystery. I want to know what that is,
Yeah. So final thoughts. Get ready to shut this down. All right?
Yeah, it's getting late.
It is getting late. Okay, so episode 3 was a full flashback. At the end of episodes 1 and 2, I said that there's a solid story that could be told from this, right? I still believe that.
Yeah.
I still believe that there is a true, solid story that could come from this.
Yes.
If they choose to actually take it away.
Yeah, I think they've been unique enough.
I don't think episode 3 takes away from that. And you're right, it has been unique enough.
Yes. I do think there has been this, and I know, like, ratings are not everything.
Yeah.
But I do believe there's this huge disconnect right now in the communities that watch Star Wars.
Yeah.
And like, because just looking at like Rotten Tomatoes between the critics and the audience reviews, and I think the truth is somewhere in the middle from what I have seen.
I agree.
Is this the greatest Star Wars
property ever?
No. Mm-hmm. Truthfully, it's probably been the worst.
So far.
But that's also, we brought this up at the beginning, they've made, essentially, in their TV series, they've all been bangers. Except for, I'd say Boba Fett is probably the next worst.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying like this
and
is
half
like
of Kenobi.
Yeah. And I'm not saying this is like an F. This is like, but so far this has been like C plus work. It's been passable. And there's room for improvement.
For sure.
But
this is better than the Solo movie, right? Or did we just find the line right there?
You might if Solo didn't have Donald Glover, then yes. But
dude, Donald Glover is so
Glover just
good.
takes it up a notch.
Yeah, he does. He carries it that extra notch.
Not just that, but he was just really good as hell. As
Lando.
Lando. That's awesome.
But yeah, so that's it. I'm still hopeful.
Yes.
I'm not out. There's a lot of people in the Star Wars universe who are 100% out. But this is a Flashback episode. It has nothing to do with the current story.
Star Wars universe people can be out when they see a trailer. So I don't care.
Kick rocks.
I'd say like a large chunk of the people were out like 2 months ago. Like
right.
Yeah.
Like I'm not even kidding. Like they were, as soon as they saw that there's going to be a largely female led cast, and they were like, it was female creator. They're like, no, we're out.
Females?
Yeah. How dare they? Yeah. I was not a fan of this episode. However, it doesn't affect the main storyline yet.
Yes.
So
yeah, I don't think it's as bad as its ratings have shown.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still don't like the direction. It stays this track.
Justin doesn't like female-led projects.
Yep.
Except one of my favorite books of all time so far is a female-led. But anyway,
that's a book. No one cares about books. All right, time to wrap it up. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you. Reminder to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. Please share the podcast with your friends. It helps us out a lot. And also leaving us one of those fancy 5-star reviews on Apple, leaving us a comment on YouTube. All these ways really help us out tremendously. So please do that. And be sure to come back next week. I won't be here, but these guys will be here to review episode 4 of the greatest Star Wars show of all time, The Acolyte. So be sure to come back for that. With all that in mind, for my good friends Sandy and Shamato, this is T-Roll saying thank you so much for listening to the Royal Geek Podcast. We will see you next time, you peasants.